Can't imagine a world-famous name facing an awkward situation live on television? Chris Rock left the entire audience stunned, and Melania couldn't keep her composure. Chris Rock's sharp commentary on Trump. Trump is not playing, that's right, this time is totally different. He's working with the #1 African American in the world, the richest African American in the world, Elon Musk. That night, on stage, Chris Rock didn't just refresh his jokes, he delivered sharp commentary about Trump, offering deep insights into his controversial decisions. These weren't just funny stories, they were reflections of the situations that had captured public attention in recent times. Trump's business failures. Controversial statements. Bizarre public decisions. All were woven into Rock's humor. Public dissatisfaction becomes comedy gold. According to a recent survey, 45% of Americans were dissatisfied with Trump's policies in 2023, making him the perfect target for Rock's subtle mockery. Rock cleverly pointed out bizarre situations from the past. Trump adjusting a hurricane map. His controversial speeches. His unpredictable reactions at public events. The audience roared with laughter, but not everyone found it funny. Melania reportedly lost her composure. Melania, known for maintaining a calm demeanor in public, had an unexpected reaction. Close sources revealed that after that night, she struggled to control her emotions. No longer able to maintain her usual composure. Her body language spoke volumes. The fatigue and tension were visible on her face. It became impossible to ignore her sense of helplessness in dealing with the public criticism. This was a rare moment where Melania couldn't hide her emotions, showing the significant impact of the situation. Trump's reaction, a predictable fury. After Chris Rock's mockery, Trump immediately reacted strongly. It was no surprise that he took to social media to share his thoughts. However, unlike some other situations, this response clearly showcased Trump's personality as someone who stands firm in any difficult situation. Whether facing criticism or challenges, he did not hesitate to counter the mockery, always asserting himself and finding ways to turn the situation around in his own way. While not everyone may agree with him, his reaction once again proved his consistency in leadership style, mocking Trump's notable situations. Thank you very much. Okay, before we even get started, let's address the elephant in the room. President Trump's in the hospital. From COVID. And I just want to say, my heart goes out to COVID. When it comes to Trump, we can't forget the special situations he's created. His strange statements and controversial decisions have become integral parts of the stories shared widely. Chris Rock skillfully incorporated these moments into his humor, from the infamous disinfectant comment to surprising decisions about international events, Trump's legacy and the stories around it. People often talk about a leader's legacy, but Trump's legacy has left a particularly unique mark. The decisions he made, whether controversial or not, have created a distinct image, and the public's reaction has proven this. Dissatisfaction with Trump's policies has risen to over 60% in certain areas. There were difficulties in fulfilling some commitments, yet Trump still maintained a significant influence. The internet's reaction. As usual, the internet didn't miss the chance to create parody videos and memes about the notable situations. The videos about Trump quickly went viral on social media, attracting millions of shares and comments. One video about Trump received over 1 million shares on Twitter, showing the great public interest in this situation. Melania's role in the scene. Melania, though rarely showing emotions, cannot be ignored in this situation. Despite moments that seemed tiring or uncomfortable, she kept her composure. In contrast to her husband's optimistic speeches, Melania increasingly appeared reserved and did not engage in public debates. This led the public to wonder whether she is facing many unspoken challenges. The future of Trump and Melania. Could this be the end of the tension between Trump and Melania? Will the couple continue their roles in this never-ending drama? Stay tuned for more in the video to understand the issue better. Fox News consistently reports misleading information about the U.S. economy. Despite the unemployment rate decreasing and jobs increasing rapidly, is this the truth or just a campaign to distort information and place blame? Fox News and misleading stories. On channels like Fox News, misleading stories about the economy continue to spread. Frequent misconceptions in economic narratives. One of the most controversial issues is the tendency to blame the economic policies of an individual or group, while the truth is often quite different. Trump's perspective on the economy. What President Trump inherited was a disaster from Biden. We're going to fix it. The other countries need our economy more than we need theirs. They've been ripping us off for decades, and we want fair and reciprocal trade. Fox News and economic misrepresentation. When Fox News repeatedly associates economic failure with the current administration, they overlook the fact that the economy under the new leadership has seen significant job growth and a lower unemployment rate compared to the pandemic period. Since January 2021, nearly 16.2 million new jobs have been created, and the economy has made a strong recovery following the COVID-19 pandemic. According to data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, GDP has shown impressive growth, surpassing major nations in recovery speed. Why does Fox News ignore these figures? Is it because they want to create a negative image of the present administration to pave the way for future election strategies? Groups and individuals within the MAGA, Make America Great Again, movement have often commented on current economic issues. However, when compared with actual numbers, these claims begin to show a lack of foundation. Looking at the actual data from the Wall Street Journal, the U.S. economy under the current administration hasn't just recovered, but has outperformed expectations. Other economies, job growth, low unemployment rates, and industrial production all show stability. So why are some still deliberately creating pessimistic stories and exaggerating the difficulties? Are they simply trying to exploit public fears to serve their own interests? His first move is going to be, he has suggested that he would like to waive taxes for people under $150,000. That's aspirational. When we balance the budget, and let me tell you, he's got a plan to balance this budget. One of the major criticisms from critics is the tax cuts for the wealthy, while worker support programs and public services are significantly slashed. With political backing, these cuts could reduce workers' incomes, while the wealthy continue to benefit from tax advantages. In 2017 alone, tax policies resulted in billions of dollars of benefits for large corporations and ultra-wealthy individuals. However, this has led to an increasing income gap, with wage workers still facing rising prices, expensive housing, and high living costs. As the president has said, a recognition that we have to accept, which is that, look, Joe Biden left this economy in a disaster. A recent notable reaction is J.D. Vance's weak defense of the previous administration. In an interview, Vance tried to blame current economic difficulties but failed to provide any concrete evidence to back his claims. His words reflect one of the strategies frequently used by Trump supporters, blaming others instead of acknowledging past mistakes. In reality, the U.S. economy is gradually recovering, and continuing to blame past administrations does little to address real economic challenges. Continuing to blame previous administrations only makes it harder to build a sustainable economy. Fox News host Jesse Watters recently shared that a member of his family might lose their job due to budget cuts. However, the irony lies in the fact that the very policies promoted by his supporters are the ones causing many families to face financial difficulties. This is a great irony. Those who strongly advocate for policies benefiting the wealthy are often unaware that these policies are harming their own families and working people. At the same time, we cannot forget the call for policies that support workers instead of focusing only on the interests of large corporations and the ultra-wealthy. Real measures must be taken to support workers who struggle to make ends meet, reduce the cost of living, lower housing prices, increase wages. Ensuring everyone can live a dignified life is what a truly strong and sustainable economy looks like. The distortion of economic truth. Why, despite the U.S. economy heading in the right direction with positive numbers, are there still many people deliberately distorting and misrepresenting the truth to serve their own interests? Keep watching the video to understand the full story. Canada threatens to cut electricity exports to the U.S., a looming energy crisis? The U.S. may soon face an unprecedented energy disaster. Millions of households, factories, and businesses could lose power. Why? Canada is threatening to cut electricity exports as a direct response to Trump's 25% tariffs. Is this just a bluff, or is the U.S. truly on the verge of an energy crisis? US-Canada trade war takes a dangerous turn. The US-Canada trade tensions have been simmering for years, but in February 2025, the Trump administration made a bold move, reinstating a 25% tariff on steel, aluminum, and other key imports from Canada and Mexico. Objective: protect US industries. Reduce imports. Boost domestic production. But Canada refused to stay silent. Canada strikes back. The US faces a potential energy crisis. On March 2, 2025, in Ontario, Premier Doug Ford issued a firm warning. If the US continues its unfair tariff policies, we won't hesitate to cut electricity exports. Less than 24 hours later, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's administration responded. The US must not underestimate Canada. If they tax our goods, we have ways to retaliate. But can Canada really pull the plug on the US? Can Canada actually cut off US electricity? Each year, Canada exports 65 terawatt-hours of electricity to the US, making up around 10% of US electricity imports. Which states would be hit the hardest? New York, Vermont, Michigan, Minnesota. Economic impact of an electricity cutoff. Electricity prices could skyrocket by 30% to 50% in affected regions. U.S. manufacturing, especially in the auto and tech industries, could face major disruptions. Households would see record-breaking utility bills. But can Canada really flip the switch overnight? Not that simple. The North American power grid is deeply integrated, making an instant shutdown nearly impossible. Additionally, Canada depends on electricity revenue. In 2024, exports to the U.S. were worth $2.3 billion. A more likely move? Gradually cutting supply or raising prices to apply economic pressure on the U.S. Canada's strategic economic weapons. If Canada doesn't immediately cut electricity, what other tactics could they use to escalate tensions? Electricity. A gradual reduction or price increase could strain U.S. energy costs. Steel and aluminum. The U.S. imports 30% of its aluminum from Canada. Cutting supply could send prices soaring. Nickel. Canada supplies 20% of U.S. nickel imports, a critical metal for electric vehicles and lithium batteries. Oil and gas. The U.S. imports 1.4 million barrels of crude oil per day from Canada. Any disruption could send fuel prices skyrocketing. Will Trump back down, or will the trade war escalate? On March 4, 2025. Trump's defiant stand: we will not surrender tariffs. President Donald Trump addressed Congress with a clear message. We will not surrender tariffs. Make America strong. Trump dismissed concerns about Canada cutting electricity. Meanwhile, the White House warned of retaliatory tariffs on Canadian goods if Canada dared to act. Northeastern states begin to worry. Soaring electricity costs. Potential shortages. Manufacturing concerns. But is Trump making a strategic miscalculation? Worst-case scenario, a full-blown energy crisis. If the U.S. and Canada fail to reach an agreement, blackouts could hit northern states. Electricity costs could double or even triple. The U.S. manufacturing sector could grind to a halt. This is no longer just about steel, aluminum, or power. It's a looming energy crisis. Will Canada really pull the plug? Some experts believe Canada might reduce electricity supply gradually rather than cutting it off entirely. U.S. consumers will face higher electricity bills and potential shortages. But a full-blown energy crisis is unlikely, at least for now. Stay tuned for the next update. Trade tensions escalate, Canada strikes back. Breaking news: Donald Trump delays imposing a 25% tariff on Canadian imports. But trade tensions have already erupted. Canada is not standing still. Provinces are quickly striking back, targeting key U.S. economic interests. British Columbia takes immediate action. British Columbia, BC, a key gateway connecting the U.S. to Alaska, did not wait for a federal response. BC Premier David Eby declared, "We will not stand by while our economy is under attack. If Washington continues to impose tariffs, we have strong measures to respond." BC's bold move. Proposed tolls on U.S. commercial trucks passing through British Columbia to reach Alaska. The BC-Alaska corridor facilitates over $720 million in goods transported annually. Furthermore, BC announced a ban on liquor imports from Republican-led states, particularly California, Texas, and Florida. This move directly targets the U.S. wine and spirits industry, reinforcing BC's firm stance in the trade conflict. Trudeau's defiant stand, "We will not back down." The federal government of Canada could not ignore the U.S. actions. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau made his position clear. "Canadians are reasonable, and we are polite. But we will not back down from a fight, not when our country and the well-being of everyone in it are at stake." Canada officially imposed a 25% tariff on $155 billion worth of U.S. goods, targeting aluminum, steel, consumer goods, agricultural products. Finance Minister Dominic LeBlanc emphasized, "Canada does not seek a trade war. But if the U.S. imposes tariffs, we will retaliate." Provinces respond with tough measures. Nova Scotia banned U.S. companies from bidding on government contracts and doubled road tolls for American commercial trucks. Alberta, Premier Danielle Smith warned, "The Trump administration is forcing Canada into a defensive stance. If this continues, both sides will suffer the consequences." Manitoba and Newfoundland banned U.S. liquor imports and began reviewing trade contracts to reduce reliance on American suppliers. Many Canadian businesses joined the movement, further escalating the conflict. Canada shifts trade strategy, boycotting U.S. goods and reducing dependence. Rather than just countering Trump's tariffs, Canada is shifting its entire trade strategy. Under the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, CPTPP, Canada has strengthened exports to Japan, Australia, and Southeast Asia. Trade Minister Mary Ng stated, "We are building a trade ecosystem that is less dependent on the U.S." Meanwhile, Canada is also increasing exports to Europe through the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, CETA, leveraging tariff-free trade opportunities to reduce reliance on the U.S. market. To support this transition, the government is offering financial incentives to help businesses shift exports to alternative markets, ensuring economic stability amid ongoing U.S. trade pressures. A long history of U.S.-Canada trade disputes. Trade disputes between the U.S. and Canada are nothing new. 1982, the softwood lumber conflict. The U.S. accused Canada of subsidizing its timber industry, sparking a decades-long battle with multiple legal cases at the World Trade Organization, WTO. 2018, Trump's tariffs on aluminum and steel. The Trump administration imposed tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel. In response, Canada retaliated with tariffs on politically sensitive U.S. exports, including agricultural goods from swing states. The U.S. claims its tariffs are justified under national security grounds, but Canada argues this violates the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA. Although Canada could take legal action at the WTO, past experience shows that the U.S. often ignores unfavorable rulings. Trump skips Ukraine summit amid global tensions. As world leaders gathered in London for an emergency summit to support Ukraine, Donald Trump was missing. While leaders like Keir Starmer and Volodymyr Zelensky discussed military aid, Trump played golf and attended private events. With global security at stake, is the U.S. losing its leadership role? Will the world move forward without America? As the global summit on Ukraine's future took place, the absence of the U.S. raised serious questions about America's leadership role. This summit, hosted by UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, brought together top leaders from the European Union and NATO. Their goal was clear: increase military and economic aid for Ukraine. Ensure lasting peace in the region. Keir Starmer declared, "We are at a crossroads in history today. This is not a moment for more talk. It's time to act. We will keep the military aid flowing and keep increasing economic pressure on Russia. We agreed that any lasting peace must ensure Ukraine's sovereignty and security. Zelensky's plea for security guarantees. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky emphasized, "We do not want an endless war. What we need are real security guarantees so that peace can be sustainable, not just a temporary agreement." Trump's absence sparks global disappointment. While the world worked tirelessly to find solutions for Ukraine, Donald Trump, the former U.S. president and current presidential candidate, was completely absent. Trump did not attend the summit. He made no significant statements on the crisis. Instead, he spent his time playing golf and hosting private events at Mar-a-Lago. This stark contrast sparked disappointment among allies and ignited criticism even within the U.S. A political analyst commented, "At a time when America's allies are facing one of the greatest crises of our era, Trump has shown that he simply doesn't care. This is a clear sign of weak and irresponsible foreign policy." Rubio's controversial remarks on Ukraine. Senator Marco Rubio, a close Trump ally, criticized President Zelensky for trying to explain the Ukraine situation to Trump. He remarked, "Zelensky keeps trying to explain Ukraine to Trump, but that's not an effective way to do diplomacy." This statement immediately drew backlash. Many questioned, why does a U.S. president need someone to explain Russia's invasion of Ukraine? Shouldn't a leader already understand such a critical global issue? Europe moves forward without the U.S. Prime Minister Keir Starmer highlighted the formation of a new alliance. European Union, the coalition of the willing European Union. A group of nations ready to take action, regardless of U.S. involvement. This was a direct message that if the U.S., under Trump, refuses to participate, Europe will move forward without them. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen stated, "Ukraine's future must be secured, with or without U.S. leadership. Ukraine must become a steeled porcupine. A nation so strong that no one dares to invade it. To achieve this, Ukraine must secure its economy, military, and overall security." Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau reinforced this stance. "We've also invested close to $20 billion in supports for Ukraine, military, economic, and other, and we're going to continue to be there to support Ukraine as necessary." These statements not only showcased Western unity but also served as a warning to Trump. The world will not wait for the U.S. if he continues to ignore its responsibilities. Zelensky's powerful message, Ukraine needs action, not empty promises. President Zelensky concluded the summit with a powerful message. Ukraine does not need empty promises. They need action, weapons, economic aid, and most importantly, a real alliance to safeguard peace. He added, "We are grateful to the U.S. for past support, but our future cannot be threatened by irresponsible politicians. We need a lasting peace, not an endless war." Will the U.S. abandon Ukraine? The big question remains. If Donald Trump returns to the White House, will the U.S. continue its commitment to Ukraine? If the U.S. withdraws, does the world have enough strength to stand against Russian expansion? The answers will become clear soon, but for now, one thing is certain,